into turn 5. Is Verstappen far enough back? He's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him coming.
Max Verstappen dominated the 2023 season, shattering historic records along the way. In fact, Red Bull could have secured the Constructors' Championship solely with Verstappen's points, which surpassed the total of second-place Mercedes. Max Verstappen's dominance is something that we could quite easily underestimate, considering the fact that he has been breaking records ever since he entered the sport at the age of 17, before even obtaining his driver's license. However, the Dutchman has been in a league of his own in the past couple of years, and it seems like there are a couple of alarming facts people are overlooking. What's even scarier is that he is far from being done. What is the shocking truth about Max Verstappen that nobody is noticing, and what could this mean for the future of Formula One? Not many believed we would see Verstappen being the successor of Vettel's steps in Red Bull, especially after Ricciardo signed for the team back in 2014. However, in 2015, Toro Rosso decided to give a chance to a young bull in times where their academy was not delivering the drivers that they hoped for, Max Verstappen becoming a full-time driver at the age of 17 years and 166 days. After entirely skipping the F2 program, Verstappen debuted in 2014 during a free practice session in Suzuka, becoming the youngest driver to ever sit in an F1 car. It was more than enough to convince Red Bull that they might have something special in their hands, which was proven by Verstappen's amazing 2015 season in Toro Rosso. He outperformed Carlos Sainz, who also debuted with the Dutchman on the same team in the same year, as Verstappen got promoted to the senior team at Red Bull just after a one-year stint with Toro Rosso. It's quite abysmal if you think about the fact that Verstappen won a race on his first try with Red Bull after both Mercedes rivals crashed into each other in Barcelona in 2016, and the Dutchman was able to keep behind him a raging duo of Ferrari drivers. This put him on the list of the youngest race winners as well, 18 years and 228 days. What is quite interesting is the fact that neither one of these records is likely to get broken again due to the fact that the FIA instituted a rule that prohibits drivers from entering F1 racing until they are 18 years old. This rule is known as the Verstappen rule, which just goes to show the impact that he's had on the sport outside of his team. What Red Bull were able to witness during Verstappen's first win in Barcelona is that if the car is in the right operating window, they can count on him to score race wins and fight for the championship. But it was a time during which Mercedes' dominance was absolutely shattering the hopes of every other F1 driver, and it wouldn't be until 2021 when Verstappen got the first opportunity to fight for an equal championship with Lewis Hamilton. Of course, it took 7 years of racing before he got his first championship, but those 7 years were full of polishing his aggressive driving style and his temperament, which are now just flashbacks of what Verstappen used to do in the past. And this is one of the interesting parts of his career. He has accomplished so much, gone through 9 years of full-time F1 racing, and is still at the age of 26. Compared to the driver who debuted with him, Carlos Sainz, the difference is massive, as the Spaniard only has 3 race wins behind his name, and Verstappen stands as the third most winning driver on the grid. But then again, different career paths and working methods work the way they were supposed to for each driver. Right now, we are seeing just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Verstappen's dominance. The scary truth about Verstappen, apart from him being just 26 years of age with 9 years of experience in racing, is the fact that he is on the most dominant team on the grid, Red Bull. It's highly unlikely the team will get challenged, let alone beaten, in the current regulation era, even though McLaren and Ferrari made some massive steps in the right direction. What this shows is that by the time we enter the new regulation era in 2026, Verstappen could be sitting at 5 championships at the age of 28. No other driver in the history of the sport has achieved this at such a young age. For example, Hamilton and Schumacher managed to score their 7th championship at the age of 35, and at the age of 26, the Brit has scored only 1 championship in his career, despite starting it with the most dominant team at the time, McLaren. But this is just who Verstappen is. If you want further proof about his work ethic, just look at what he did during the 2024 Imola GP. Max is so passionate about racing that he competes in all kinds of categories online, such as the Endurance Championship with BMW. During the racing weekend in Imola, he participated in a couple of 3-hour sessions with his team, one that came after scoring pole position on Saturday, and the other one was just a couple of hours before the race event itself. Oh, And yeah, he won the race event as well, and his team managed to score a win in the 24-hour Nürburgring too. Max started racing at the age of 4, which, while a common fact among the majority of the drivers on the grid, is still shocking considering the amount of work he has put in ever since. His father left his own F1 career, not nearly as fruitful as what Max is currently achieving, in order to dedicate his life to making his son a future champion. Being Michael's teammate at the time, Jos Verstappen knew a lot when it came to championship mentality, only he wasn't able to score it through himself, so he decided to nurture his son into such a life. The harsh love that he received from his father, such as racing in icy conditions and entering the van only to heat up his fingers, is what made Verstappen what he is today. And trust me when I tell you, the man is a ruthless machine. The impact that Verstappen has on Red Bull at the age of 26 goes beyond anything we've ever seen. If you were to look at the past teammates that the Dutchman had, you'd notice that almost all of them are performing well on other teams, such as Gasly and Albon. These two drivers had the talent to become the next champions in Red Bull with proper training and time, but they did not have the luck to exist in another timeline that wouldn't involve Verstappen in it. As I mentioned earlier in this video, while many were dubbing Ricciardo to be the next successor of Vettel, it turned out quite the opposite, as the Dutchman took over the reins and effectively kicked Ricciardo out of the team. In a bid to try and prove himself on other teams, Ricciardo ultimately ended up without a seat for 10 races in 2023, only for him to return with Alpha Tauri, now Racing Bulls, which is the rebranded version of Toro Rosso, the ultimate definition of Thanos saying, "You couldn't live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me." The fact that Red Bull opted to hire an outside driver for the first time since Mark Webber joined the team back in 2007 goes to show that Red Bull does not have any trust in other young drivers apart from Verstappen when it comes to leading the team in the right direction. The 2021 championship was the pinnacle of Verstappen's dominance, and although it was won in a controversial matter, it marked the beginning of something both great and miserable for Red Bull. While they knew they had something special in their hands, it does not come without its own pros and cons. For example, we've seen that in the recent political rumble in Red Bull, the Dutchman took the side of Helmut Marko and threatened to leave if the Austrian veteran leaves as well. This goes to show that Verstappen's impact on Red Bull is much greater than we could originally anticipate, even though Horner insists that there isn't a single human being in Red Bull that is greater than the team. So, if you look at the facts, they say it all. Verstappen is the third most winning driver in Formula 1, has crushed the record for most podiums scored in a year twice in a row, and holds the highest winning percentage in Formula 1 at a staggering 86.35%. All of this has been scored at the age of 26, and if Verstappen continues to walk on this path that has been paved by both himself and Red Bull, then rest assured that all of the records that currently stand still by Schumacher and Hamilton will be crushed in no time. Of course, it's worth mentioning that the race calendar growing up to 24 races does help Verstappen's cause a lot, given the fact that back in the day, it wasn't nearly as packed as it is right now, but that still doesn't take away from Verstappen's greatness. With all this in mind, what do you think about Verstappen's dominance? And more importantly, do you think it will continue in the following period as well? Let us know in the comments below.